I will go silent, and I will let you guys go to it, and then who wants to start? By the way,
I will allow the Jedi to begin with their debate first.
Sure, I can do that.
Go ahead.
So, the Jedi are an organization dedicated to reducing to the greatest effect suffering in the universe, in the galaxy, within the boundaries of the established laws, so they don't become some extra legal entity that essentially can overthrow the Chancellor at any moment. They're there essentially as a charity. And in order to do this, they have an agreement that they are allowed to choose recruits. And it's always people who are force sensitive for many reasons, but most importantly, to keep them from falling to the dark side and creating a lot of chaos and suffering in the universe. That's partially why they preach to restrain their emotions, not be without them, but there are some that lead to the dark side that you should keep in check. They forsake worldly attachment because that is essentially how most Jedi fall to the dark side, and that's how the chosen one, Anakin, fell to the dark side, because he couldn't give up his attachment to Padme. And it's the way of the Jedi is one of peace, and they have multiple branches within the order that do specific things. You have librarians that are dedicated to the preservation of knowledge, because knowledge of the Force allows them to reduce suffering. Whereas the Sith are dedicated only to hate, greed, and anger, and those create suffering. So the Jedi are dedicated to keeping that force in check. Okay, you can go, Dolphin. That's my opening statement.
Okay, so what I was gonna have happen here is I'm gonna let Kyle here moderate. So basically, we just start with the opening arguments, and next will be Dolphin's opening arguments, and then we're gonna each have, and then they'll each get their rebuttals, and then they'll each have their final arguments. It's like you did before, Kyle. So
okay, who just talked? Placeholder just talked. So Dolphin, you can go.
All right, let me begin at the beginning with the Code of the Sith. Peace is a lie. There is only passion. And through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me. The Jedi are more about suppression and more about rigid laws and shackling yourself to some fanciful concept of what is or is not morality as established by absolutely corrupted republic governments that have no concern over the will of the people. And the Jedi just mock this because they deny themselves the truth of passion and feeling and emotion within the Force. My opponent argues that the Jedi maintain the truth of the Force with their librarians, but they don't. They actually actively deny an entire half of what the Force is. They don't embrace the true entirety of the Force. They hold themselves back. They tell themselves that the people don't need to feel love. They don't need to feel compassion. They don't need to feel excitement. These things are terrible. Oh, they lead to suffering. But you know what else they lead to is joy. And that's something else the Jedi will never feel because they can't. If they feel joy, they might have to suffer later. Oh, welcome to my safe space. I'm sorry, I'm not buying it, not for a second. The whole Jedi way of thinking is to close yourself off from what you can truly experience, what you can truly feel, the emotions that draw us together, that make us love each other, that establish the bonds that create societies and build civilizations. The Jedi are nothing but a bunch of oppressive liars that pretend they have some sort of moral high ground because I don't have any possessions. Oh, woe is me. No, I'm sorry. I don't care. My passion is for the people I love. And I will embrace all aspects of the Force, because the Force doesn't consume you. It guides you. It frees you. That's what the Sith Code tells us. If we actually bring this over to the non-Jedi world, we even have these revelations in the great thinkers that make games like Assassin's Creed, where other men blindly follow the truth. Remember, nothing is true. Where other men are limited by morality or law, remember, everything is permitted. We work in the dark to serve the light. That's the concept, just equally paralleled to the Sith. You work in the dark, sure. You must do terrible things, sure. But that is the way of the universe. And to deny it is to deny truth. You say that your Jedi preserve the truth in their halls of learning? Please. You're denying truth by your very virtue. You're denying that love and joy and passion and emotion can even exist. And with that, I'm finished with my opening statements.
Very sexy. Now, Placeholder, you get to do your counter.
There's no emotion, there's only peace. There's no ignorance, there's knowledge. There is no passion, there is serenity. There is no chaos, there's harmony. There is no death, there is the Force. Consider what it is the Jedi are actually saying here. The Jedi are saying that you shouldn't necessarily ignore the whole of the Force. You should learn as much as you can, but beware. There are powers that you should not use. There are powers that corrupt you, that cloud your mind and cause you to commit the worst of acts just in pursuit of power. The Sith do not serve the light. They serve themselves. The Jedi serve the light. The Jedi serve the light and the whole of the Force. Otherwise, Anakin would not have been trained. The Jedi use the Force. The Sith are used by the Force. They seek forbidden knowledge that does nothing but corrupt their body and cloud their mind. It enables them to affect the minds of others in ways that are not necessarily good and that cause them to act against their best interest. The way Palpatine corrupted the Chosen One. The Chosen One had a prophecy, and Palpatine recognized this, but Anakin did not. So Palpatine manipulated the Chosen One in order to have him kill his own wife. The Sith seek power and nothing more. And with that, that is my rebuttal.
Very good. Okay, now we go to Dolphin, and he can give his rebuttal. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. The Sith. The Sith. My goodness. The Jedi oppress everyone. That's all they do. The Jedi use the Force. The Sith are used by the Force. This is your argument? So, in other words, the Jedi are the ones wanting the power because they use the Force. The Sith let the Force guide them by your own arguments. That's I don't know what you were thinking with it. Perhaps you were giving into the dark side a little bit, but I'll embrace you anyway. The Sith don't want power. The Sith want passion. They want love. They want true emotion. They don't want to be told that they can't have a meaningful relationship with somebody that matters to them. The Sith master the Force because they allow it to guide them. You can't contain a river. You can't direct it in any direction. You can only flow with it. Guys, I'm going to have to call that the end of my rebuttal for just a moment and take a 2-minute break as parental duties. See, as a Sith master, I have given into passion, and I have regenerated myself, something no Jedi can ever do. And now my offspring needs to pee. So I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Okay, 1 second.
His kids are like, Daddy, did you just say duty?
It's my duty. What about your duty, Daddy?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess while we're waiting, if this might be interesting, Placeholder, can I ask you a question?
You just did.
Another question. I asked you a question to ask you a question. Okay. Do you think without the dark side of the Force, there would be no light side?
Well, certainly, the Jedi seek only balance with the Force. Power and balance are not the same thing.
So the Jedi does not seek to totally destroy the Sith.
Okay, so are we talking canon or Legends territory?
You could speak from canon and legends.
Canon, that has not been addressed to the
Whichever.
extent of my knowledge. Legends, however, oh no, the Jedi absolutely slaughtered the Sithari and the Sith, the true Sith, as soon as they found out about them because they didn't understand it. And that's an absolute black spot on the Jedi and Legends.
Yeah, like isn't that supposed to be completely against their philosophy? I mean,
oh yeah, and then there are also other Jedi that began to plot against other members of the Jedi in Legends, and that led to, I think it was Revan falling to the dark side.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, I don't know. There's a lot of Sith
Legends,
Lords
of course, not canon.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of Sith Lords that haven't been covered yet. I think most of them are in Legend though.
What does the canon storyline say? Would say about that question?
It hasn't been addressed in any meaningful way, so the answer is default. They would not
that's why I asked the question, because I was very confused based on, because I've never heard it mentioned either.
Yeah.
I mean, there might have been echoes of it in books, but unfortunately, I haven't had time to sit down and read the novels. I really want to. Ahsoka sounds like it's going to be an awesome one. And I really liked that character. Ahsoka is one of my favorite Rebels and Clone Wars characters.
And I'm back.
Okay. Part 2 of Dolphin's rebuttal.
All right. As I just realized something, that the Jedi Order concepts are really terrible for society. In fact, they're quite possibly the worst ideas you can have for society. You see, one of the major aspects of the Jedi is that they don't allow for children. They don't allow for personal relationships. They don't allow for procreation. So that means that now the question of the debate, and I want to specify that the question of the debate is, are the Sith or the Jedi principles better for society? Well, after one generation, there is no society. So my argument is, if you actually want to continue society, the only Jedi it would only be allowed as a limited concept. Otherwise, you wouldn't have another generation to follow.
Could I fact check for a second?
Like the Catholic Church, they're not allowed to.
I need to fact check for a second.
Hang on a second.
Now, I'd like to point out that there are many Jedi who have had children.
Tim's trying to say something.
Chair.
Chair. Sorry.
Yeah. I need to fact check for a second because they had the younglings.
They do, and they're identified all over the galaxy and brought to the temple.
Yeah, they're not products of two Jedis.
I'm pointing out that the argument here is the Jedi way better for society than the Sith way? And the Jedi way is to not have children. When you have children, you leave the order. That is why Anakin had to hide his marriage to Padme, and especially her pregnancy, from the order. When approached by Obi-Wan told him, screamed at him, "You will be cast from the order." And
so the reason for that is thus. The Jedi do not believe it is their right to create generations of Force wielders.
So, well, hold on.
They don't feel that they have the right to tip the balance of the Force in that way.
Well, let me ask you this then. If you can't have kids, how is your way better for society when after one generation there will be no society?
We don't expect, like, you wouldn't expect the whole of society to be able to function according to Jedi code. It is only
But that's
for
the
Jedi.
question. That's the
However,
question
there are
of the
things that can be
debate.
out of the Jedi way that can be adopted by society in a wider stance.
You're talking about
The
philosophical
philosophy of
practices.
the Jedi, rather than
not
the
like
Jedi themselves.
physical practices. Yeah.
Well, even then, philosophically, let's have no connections. Do you really honestly believe that having no emotional connections to any of the people you ever meet is good for society? Should we just all go about being robots? I mean, why are we not bees? Are you a communist as well?
It says nothing about enslaving your emotions. The way that the practice is implemented is that the Jedi are allowed to have emotions and express and emote, but they should keep it in check.
Oh, well, see, the Sith way is to embrace
if they control
emotions.
specific emotions, there can be peace because nobody's trying to kill everybody else.
But the peace is a lie. The peace is just what you tell yourself you have when you're struggling inside. Is that what you want? A bunch of crazy people all wandering around with their own personal demons that they're constantly struggling with inside because they can't allow their emotions to escape.
So would it be better to allow them to pursue to the greatest of their ability whatever it is that they want, even if it is essentially nothing more than revenge?
No, because there is law. Just because you can express your emotion doesn't mean you need to go out and kill somebody. What do you think we Sith are, monsters?
It sounds like you're describing the Jedi as neurotic Woody Allens.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
If we live by the Sith code, through passion I gain strength, and through strength I gain power.
Then we'll have the most beautiful art in the galaxy.
Should we allow the just absolute insane who are able to gain that power, or should we restrain ourselves and look at things rationally?
If the most
not through a lens of emotions, but through a lens of calm reasoning and meditation.
If the most insane do gain that power, I'm not going to be sitting in a room next to you humming, hummina, hummina, hummina. No, I'm going to get my passion out and whip his ass.
The Jedi code does not prevent people from being violent. They're only violent in the service of saving the innocent from the violent.
I thought you were you only used self-defense methods. You can't be violent.
Okay, hang on a second. Canon?
We need some canon here.
Canon, that would normally be true. However, when we pick up, it's right before the Clone Wars, and we begin to see the Order transitioning from being essentially not more than a police force to an active military branch.
And do you know why that is?
Oh, in service of the Republic.
No, it's because the Sith way is the natural progression of true following the Force.
The Sith manipulated the Jedi and put them in the situation where they couldn't act otherwise. I don't.
But the Jedi attempted to commit
the Jedi necessarily for that. They were simply following their beliefs.
But I can blame the Jedi for attempted genocide of the Sith.
Killed. That's legends. That's legends.
Are we not allowed to look at the historical truth?
That's why I haven't talked about Revan except in reference. That's why I haven't talked about.
Of course, look.
Bane.
Well, let's not go into the Jedi that have fallen to their most violent whims as well. Anakin Skywalker? Are you kidding me? You have your own villains. The point is, every being in the galaxy has the ability to be evil or great. And there are great Sith, and there are.
If he learned to control his fear, that would never have happened.
I think the Jedi fear emotion. I think the Jedi fear passion.
Was Anakin ever fully in the Order? Like, I know they put him on the council, but was he ever in the...
He was not granted the rank of master. He was a knight who was placed on the council, similar to Qui-Gon.
Yeah, so that's the only point I wanted to make about him saying about the Jedi having their own enemies and stuff. It's like, well, technically he wasn't on the council, so he wasn't a Jedi master. I mean, so he was.
No, he was on the council. He just wasn't granted the rank of master. Qui-Gon was not on the council and was, I think, a master.
Mm-hmm. So you can technically argue that he wasn't fully Jedi.
Well, no, he was fully Jedi. He was just he was found too late. If he was a few years younger, it wouldn't have happened. And if he hadn't been exposed to Darth Maul, that wouldn't necessarily have been as likely an outcome.
Well, if we're going to talk canon, then we need to address the elephant in the room, and that is that the Jedi bend the rules to their own whim. Let's discuss for a moment Master Mace Windu, a man who is supposed to be at the top of the Jedi Order, a pinnacle of what a Jedi should be. No, he shared equal part with Yoda.
He was still number 2.
And when capturing an obviously troubled individual who had done some fairly deplorable things, obviously, instead of choosing the path of justice as he should have, he attempted to change the rules specifically for that situation and attempted to murder his captive and unarmed prisoner.
Yes.
Anakin's flight to the dark side was actually a stroke of justice. It was stopping an evil man from committing an evil act in a moment of passion that he could not control, because he had spent his whole life adopting a Jedi code which made him contain all that within. And when it was necessary for him to choose right or wrong, he chose wrong.
I understand that, but if we were to accept that the Jedi and the Sith are flawed living beings,
so why try to hold yourself to such a rigid standard if you're a flawed human being? Society is filled with flawed human beings. The Sith code is much better for the people of today's society.
Right, but that's why not everybody is a Jedi, because people are flawed. But if we were to adopt specific principles from within the Jedi code, such as there's no ignorance, there is knowledge, I think that would be definitely beneficial. If we were to talk about necessarily controlling things like anger, I think that would also, if we were to teach that the world is infinitely complex and that there really is no chaos, you just have a too small of a view, that everything runs in harmony, that would be the better way to run and organize our society. That way it alleviates anxiety about existence. If we were to teach people to control their passions, then we could have serenity within our society. That doesn't mean everybody should be indoctrinated into the Jedi code. We all know that that's what the Jedi do. They find extremely young children and indoctrinate them into their religious order. And I don't necessarily think that we should do something like that. I think it should be a choice. But, there are good specific things within the Jedi code and within the way the Jedi live that should be. Whereas if we were to adopt the Sith way of life, which is, might makes right, we would have essentially the Hobbes, what was it? It wasn't Hobbesian. It was Hume's view that life would be nasty, brutish, violent, and short.
So, do either of you like anything from each other's point of view? Like, Placeholder, do you like anything from the Sith point of view? And Dolphin, do you like anything from the Jedi point of view?
Sure, I think the Sith way of life for specific kinds of people could be an interesting thing to observe, but put in practice, I think it would cause far more problems than it purports to solve.
I don't necessarily feel that there's a whole lot to love about the Jedi Code. The only thing I think that you can really love about the Jedi Code is that eventually it will cause you to crack and truly embrace the true passion within you. But I do like the argument that he made earlier, that the Jedi use the Force, whereas the Sith are used by the Force. And I think that that's a good argument because, well, it's true. The Sith let the Force guide them, whereas the Jedi use it to oppress others. I don't think that that's a good model for society.
Interpreting. Okay, so if they meditate and the Force shows them things, and those things are them doing specific acts that have the potential to change the guide, to change essentially the fate of the galaxy in such a way that it tips the scale back in favor of balance. The Jedi Code demands that they do that.
Well, Thanatos demanded balance too. You see how that turned out.
Is he the one that... Did he turn into Nihilus?
No, he killed half the galaxy.
Oh, you're talking Marvel. Never mind.
Yeah.
No. I mean, you wind up getting... in Legends for a moment, let's talk about Legends, because you have to. There's way more in Legends that you can talk about. In Legends, you had like Revan. Revan went back and forth between the dark side and the light, and that's how he became a Force Ghost. He's the only Sith to turn into a Force Ghost aside from Darth Bane. But the difference is Revan could move freely, where Bane was bound to his tomb. Essentially, he put his essence into a holocron, whereas Revan didn't need to. And that actually does demonstrate a part of the Jedi Code, that he, at the end, attained balance with the Force. And in so doing, he strengthened both sides in an appropriate manner to maintain the balance. Part of why the Empire was so bad for the galaxy is because it clouded everything in the dark side of the Force. If you want to talk about oppressive, the Empire was extremely oppressive. They killed anyone that didn't agree with them, indoctrinated the youth in such a ways they became nothing but mindless slaves. And I understand that this is essentially them mocking the Jedi Code. This is what the Sith Order would look like if it operated like the Jedi. Initially, it was clones, but then they started using real people. The Sith have this inverted view of the Force that shouldn't necessarily be adopted as something that we should guide our society through. The Sith do not let themselves be guided by the Force.
Mm-hmm.
They twist the Force, contort it. Why do you think Sith blades are red? Because they make their kyber crystals bleed. They pour all of their hate, and it injures a living thing in order to gain power. The Jedi don't do that.
Can we should try and wind this down a little bit and bring it into our final arguments and whatnot.
Yeah. Okay. Who wants to start their final argument first? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Placeholder. Why don't you go first?
Sure. So, in closing, the Jedi way is a way of peace, is a way to allow everybody to choose. They can agree or they can disagree, and they don't necessarily have to face violent repercussions. If the Sith way of life were to be instituted, it would be essentially a war of all against all. Nobody can trust another person, whereas if you live by the Jedi way, trust can be established. Trust is not a material bond. Trust is a way to know that you can operate with another member of your order. Trust and love are not the same. And in Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan had a moment of weakness when he cried and used that forbidden lightsaber strike on Anakin. You know, he said, "I loved you. You were my brother," and that's an attachment. And he felt a pull to the dark side, and rather than killing Anakin, he just crippled him and let him burn to death, essentially. That is a dark side move. So we see that even the most staunch Jedi can be lured to the dark side, and it causes more suffering than it needs to. That's the point of the dark side.
Okay, Dolphin, final arguments.
Look, I hate to say it, but there is no peace. Peace is a lie. There is only passion. And through passion, you gain strength. Through strength, you gain power. Through power, victory. Through victory, your chains are broken, and the Force will free you. There are no slaves in a Sith society. Everybody is empowered. Everybody is equal ability to take what can be theirs, and to have the kind of emotional bonds. And yes, emotional bonds do include trust. How can you not trust somebody that you love? And how can you not love somebody that you trust? Jedi cut themselves off from so much of what the Force is that they call me deluded. They call me warped. But I actually have seen both sides of the Force, whereas the Jedi blind themselves and refuse to even look at half of the picture. You can't see all of the galaxy if you're only looking at half the picture. You have to embrace all of it. And it sometimes, yes, does take some people, but just like we believe in gun rights here in America, we also believe that everybody should have the chance to do all that they can be. Everybody should be able to defend themselves, to be passionate about themselves. Everybody should be able to take what is theirs for themselves. They should all be empowered. None of this, I'm higher in the order and you can't study that. Oh, that's forbidden knowledge. That's forbidden feelings. Those are forbidden emotions. You're thinking wrong. That's the Jedi way. That's not the society we want to live in. We want to live where everyone is free. And by the Sith code, the Force will free us.
Both of you did very well. Okay. Now, Chair, help me find out what happens next.
We pretty much have to decide who won. Who won?
Well, I have my vote. It was pretty close. But
we actually have an
my
official point scorer, I think, somewhere. Keep them in the Google algorithms.
We do, and Tim has no idea who won.
All right. So, Chair and Kyle, it's, I guess, up to you guys.
I still think that Dolphin has taken it.
Yeah, I would say Dolphin edged Placeholder out a little bit.
Fair enough.
Last part about everybody being equal in terms of that. Like, part of my thing too is like, yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to be unbiased about it, but at the same time, it's like the whole argument that like the Jedi seems to act like the Force only belongs to them.
Yeah. I was totally neutral when I came in, and I was totally convinced by Dolphin's argument that the Jedi are very authoritarian.
Well, you know how many people actually argued when we did this thing? They said the Gray Jedi. You know how many people wanted to take the middle ground on it, but
well, there has to be balance to the Force. That's what the Chosen One is supposed to do. He's supposed to bring balance to the Force, apparently.
I am the neutral, and I say I don't know.
So
the dark side should be careful. I mean, the light side does have the high ground.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yes.
Dolphin has taken the high ground here.
I'm sure that your soapbox has a nice view.
You are the chosen one, please.
I actually completely forgot, by the way, that there was prize money in this. And so, having not decided on any charity and not actually needing the money, I will donate my winnings to next week's prize pool. Cool. Under the condition that next week, one of the options that our fine listeners here on the Academy can choose from.
Can I make a suggestion?
Hold on. My suggestion is, are the ghosts in Ghostbusters the good guys or the bad guys? I think that would be a fun debate, and that's my suggestion. And I'll go ahead and donate my winnings to next week.
Here's my idea for the winnings. Why don't you donate it to Star Wars Force for Change?
What is Star Wars Force for Change? Sell me on this real quick, Chair.
Okay. So it's called #Roar for Change. That's the name of their thing, and they are heroes come in all sizes. You don't have to be a giant hero. You can be a small hero. I'm trying to see what exactly. It aims to support the passion and goodwill of our fans and promote change through inspiration, stories, and meaningful partnerships.
I could just piss everyone off and put it in the church coffers.
Oh, God.
But you should take a look at it anyway. It's kind of cool. It's #Roar for Change.
You know what? It is May the 4th, and I'd love to say May the 4th be with you with $10 more. But having not actually looked into the charity, I'm going to go ahead and stick with my original idea.
It's UNICEF.
Pushing the money on to next week, and hopefully we can get a Wounded Warriors program in here.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
So
alrighty, and then we will figure out this weekend. Hopefully, I'll ask everybody what they want to put up, and then we'll put up the topics and see what people say.
all right, and my topic suggestion: are the ghosts in Ghostbusters good guys or bad guys?
Okay.
That could be a fun debate.
Yeah, I think that would be fun.
I mean, think about what the Ghostbusters are actually doing to these poor
They're
hapless
enslaving
souls.
them.
Well, it's better than the wiping your ass debate.
Like, you lived all your life, you probably got terribly killed, and now somebody wants to stick you in a little box. Oh my god, it's terrible.
Anyway, guys, hopefully we'll have some more of the kinks worked out next week.
Yeah, sorry about this, guys. I did not
It's
foresee
fine.
being asked to do something today.
No, it's fine. And then it was Loudmouth saying you could come in and then like need to take off after 45 minutes. And then it's like, oh god damn it. But yeah, so we're still working it out. We're kind of I don't know, working together to try and get this channel off the ground and promote it and stuff. So if you guys want to, if you're able to, go ahead and spread the word about this channel and let people know that we're
like, share, and subscribe.
Guys, we are the Academy here every Friday and Wednesday night. Wednesday night with the Braintrust, Friday night with the Academy Debate Show.
Yep.
Check us out on Twitter, YouTube, like, subscribe, share, and we will see you next week.
I think that's Wednesday at, what was it, 10 o'clock or something?
10 o'clock Central Standard Time, 11 o'clock Eastern.
There you
Awesome.
go. Thanks, everybody.